Okay, everybody. I recently did a video, just recently, on camera video. Well, I talked about the differences between American animation and Japan animation and animation from other countries. And I had somebody say to me that what I said made no sense. Well, folks, let me explain what I was trying to say. And first of all, let me start off by saying this. I did it in a location. Of course, you probably noticed that location is my bathroom. I did it in there because my mom is currently off for the summer. She's a preschool teacher and everything, so she's currently off for the summer. And I love my mom and everything, but she's also the kind of person that will walk in on somebody doing a video, either without knocking, interrupt them, and cause them to restart all over again. So I had to do it in there while I could. And this was at a time yesterday where she was basically cleaning the house and relaxing, watching TV. So I was basically able to do the video. But the reason I did it the way I did, and the reason it may have made no sense to some people, is because I was being cautious. I didn't know if she was going to knock on the bathroom door. I didn't know if somebody outside, because I had my window open, I didn't know if somebody outside was going to yell into the camera or yell into the mic, get themselves on there. No, folks, I basically did the best I could. But if you want a better explanation, I'll give it to you like this. What I was trying to say yesterday was the difference between Japan animation and storytelling compared to American animation and storytelling. And this also goes for other countries like Germany, Europe, Russia, Australia, United Kingdom, it don't matter, China. What I was trying to say is if any of those animation studios, most importantly Japan, because they're known as the top animation, they are known as the second, if not the number two, if not at times the number one country when it comes to animation, or as they call it, anime and storytelling. They at times the number one, and we're behind them, and at times they're number two, and they're behind us. But again, this just isn't limited to Japan, because other countries, like I said, even Canada, I forgot to mention them, to me, I said this, and I'll say it again, if their animation studios and their storytellers, their writers and all that, if those people in Japan and all the other countries, but let's mainly focus on Japan here, with all due respect to the other countries like United Kingdom, Canada, Russia, Australia, China and all that, and Germany and all them, because I know they could do a hell of a job on storytelling, there's no doubt about that. Sometimes they bomb, sometimes they succeed. But Japan always seems to be the successor when it comes to adapting stuff and making it believable and dramatic and watchable. Sometimes their animation and storytelling can be a little confusing. An example, Revolutionary Girl Utena, the movie. The visuals in there are, the animation's stunning. Once you get to watching it a few times, you get the idea of what the story is about. It's a retelling of the origins. But the visuals at times kind of catch you off guard, especially the last one, where Utena turns into a car. Kind of really catches you off guard, if you know what I mean. But folks, what I was trying to say and compare the difference. Trying to compare how Japan and other countries, but mostly Japan, would tell an American, basically I was trying to compare how, a country like Japan and their animation studios and their filmmakers, how they, like any other country that be given the chance, how they would tell an animated version or anime version of some of our franchises here in the States. For example, one of the examples I started out with was in Humanoids. Now, as a kid, I will say this. I never saw Humanoids that much, mainly because maybe it was too graphic for me. Even though it was shown on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, it was too graphic. And, of course, my mom's a very religious person, very Christianized. My family was a very religious Christianized family. So there was no way me or my sisters would be able to watch that anyway. And if we did, I barely remember it. But anyway, watching back on it, watching back on it a couple of times, through some reviews, through people talking, and especially most recently watching James Wolfe, Angry Video Game Nerds, a review of Inhumanoids for Spike.com and Cinemassacre.com. Recently watching that, one of the things that stuck out to me was the transformations, especially of the hero characters. Now, I'm not talking about transformation personality-wise. No. I'm talking about transformation into something else than a human. See, what I was trying to compare and say was that if Japan had a chance, if Japan's animated filmmakers and television cartoon makers and storytellers and all that had the opportunity to do their version of Inhumanoids, then they would have taken a character like Decompose, and they would have used his abilities to turn people into undead zombies, and he would have had them extend it. And there's no doubt that, in my mind, that the Japan animation filmmakers, storytellers, and cartoon series makers, and anime series makers, if they had the opportunity to work on something like Inhumanoids and work on a villainous character like Decompose and his ability to do what he does to people, to me, they would have extended it for at least a couple of episodes. Especially when it came to a character like Sandra Shore. You see, Sandra Shore is basically one of the main hero characters, one of the main good guys, good girls, if you will, in the series. But the thing is, twice in the series, she has been captured and turned into a giant undead zombie by Decompose. Now, according to some sources, it's because Decompose has an infatuation with her. In other words, he has a major crush on her. Now, the first time, I don't know if it was towards the end of part 3 of The Evil Lies Within or in the middle to the end. But what happens is she gets turned into an undead zombie for the first time, I think towards the end or middle towards the end, I don't know, of part 3. And it isn't until towards the end of the first half of part 4 is she reverted back. So basically, for almost an episode's worth, she is a monster. Basically, for the later half of part 3 into the first half of part 4. And here's what's unique about it. Now, we've all seen live action movies, anime movies, animation movies, cartoon series here, that when a character is turned into a zombie, all you see is their eyes just change and looks like they're tired and all they're doing is moaning and all that. The way Decompose's powers go is he turns them into an undead zombie. And we're talking about the fact that in the case of a Decompose, in the case of the villainous Decompose, he basically can turn them into a zombie, which, according to somebody on DeviantArt, you could see in the case of Sandra's first transformation, you could see her rib cage. And she can actually open her rib cage just like Decompose and put somebody inside her body. It's true. But again, getting back to what I was talking about, if Japan filmmakers, animation makers, storytellers and all that, and this goes for any other country, but if Japan filmmakers and animators and all that had their opportunity to do their version of the pilot movie or the pilot or the 5-part pilot, The Evil Lies Within, they would have kept Sandra as an undead giant zombie, which can open up her rib cage and put somebody in there, just like decompose. They would have kept her like that until at least the end or near the end of the final part, which would have been part 5. And they probably would have done it a lot sooner. They probably would have done it like around part 2, at the beginning or middle, or at the end of the first half of part 2. That's when they would have done it. And the same goes for primal passions. They probably would have extended that to maybe another episode. What I'm saying, folks, is that, there may be similarities, in animation storytelling sometimes when it comes to animated series, cartoon series from both America and Japan and other countries out there. There may be similarities, but what I've said before, and I will say it again, Japan, along with other countries out there, whenever they do their own versions of certain things, a majority of the time, from what I have seen, and you can disagree or agree with this, they have no doubt, in my mind, extended at times what they do. They extended for a couple of episodes. Now, I'm not saying, and I said this in the video yesterday, I'm not saying that America doesn't extend stuff for a while. They do. When I saw Street Fighter, and I only caught a glimpse of it on the USA Network, but I Googled it and I did some research and all that. When the American cartoon series of Street Fighter was on USA, and they had Cammy be on Bison's side, that was for a season. And towards the end of the first season, she got her memory back. So if you think about it, America has done something similar. But it's only been on rare occasions. It's been on rare occasions because any time we have a character get mind controlled, it's only for maybe an episode, maybe 2-part episodes, but that's it. But mainly, from what I've seen, just for one episode, and that's it. You take a look at some other cartoon series out there that I grew up with, like Transformers, the episode Only Human. When that came out, and that was season 3, if Japan animated filmmakers and storytellers had their opportunity to do that episode themselves, there's no doubt in my mind they would look at that. And this goes for other countries like Canada and Germany and United Kingdom and so on. They would probably extend it 2 episodes, at least. 2 episodes at least. And the same can go for the second season when the Autobots got controlled by the Decepticons. They could have, had that go for an episode or 2, for another episode. There's no doubt. Because to me, I believe, and this is my honest opinion, I believe Japan and other countries, animated filmmakers and storytellers and cartoon series makers and writers and all that, given the opportunity, they would see potential to really expand on something. That's what I said. That's why I used the Sandra Shore example, because they would have probably expanded on her staying as an undead zombie in The Evil Lies Within, at least until the end of the pilot, at the end of the final episode of the pilot. And the same could be said for Sonic the Hedgehog, the Satan version, and the episode Supersonic. In the episode, Robotnik uses the Lazarus crystal to mind control Sally and Bunny. Now, I've said this many times. I've said that I believed, because the story writing was so well done, that Bunny and Sally were going to remain on his side for at least the rest of the season. But they didn't. It was only for one episode. And it was only for maybe 10 minutes of that episode, and that was it. 10 or 5 minutes of that episode, and that was it. Now, here's the thing. If the story writers in Japan, if the anime story writers in Japan, filmmakers, cartoon makers, whatever you want to call them, if they had the opportunity to write that episode or write Satayam, they would have extended that mind control for at least maybe the season or at least for another couple of episodes till Sonic can find a way to get him back. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind. But again, I could be wrong, but it's just my opinion. You know, another example, you take a look at Disney. The Disney Afternoon, they had some great shows. One show, of course, a personal favorite of mine, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. And there was an episode called, in fact, there were 2 episodes that were sort of like this. Dale beside himself. Not Dale beside himself, but Ramdale, or whatever it was called. I can't think of it right now. But basically, Dale loses his memories, and he's turned into Ramdale. So, by Fat Cat's French cousin. So, anyway, if the writers and the filmmakers, whatever you want to call them, the story writers in Japan, if they had an opportunity to do that episode, they would have extended that episode or that story for at least 2 episodes. And the same goes for the episode Chocolate Chips. They would have done the same thing. They would have done the same thing. And you know what? The episode I was just thinking of where Dale loses his memory, I just started the title. It's called Lee Perfect Crime. But anyway, like I said, they would have used Lee Perfect Crime and they would have expanded it for 2 episodes. The same with Chocolate Chips. Same thing when the Rangers, except for Dale, get controlled by the mosquito juice or whatever you want to call it. They would have been, if Japan storytellers, anime storytellers, filmmakers had a chance to do their version of it, no doubt in my mind, just my opinions, they would have done it. They would have expanded it for at least 2 episodes. Just my opinion. And you can agree with it or not, but you know, it's not just Japan. You know, Canada filmmakers and storytellers, Russian, French, United Kingdom, China, Australia, they probably already done the same. They probably would have done the same thing, maybe not. But I truly believe if Japan's anime storytellers and all that had the opportunity, they would have. And again, the list just goes on and on. You know, and it's not just with mind control. It's like I said, it's the transformations, going back to the Sandra Shore deal. I mean, take a look at Revolutionary Girl Utena. I mentioned this at the beginning. She turns into a car. That was just for the movie. Now imagine if Revolutionary Girl Utena was done as an animated series here in Japan. And let's say she had to turn into a car to save her friends. If Japan wanted to do their version of her... Okay, let me put it to you like this. They could have extended her being a car for at least half of the movie. Right? Maybe, maybe not. Sorry for the pause there. But what I'm saying, folks, is if they wanted to, they could have extended it for more than just maybe 20 minutes. Or 15 minutes. They could have extended it for a lot longer. But they didn't. And that's the same thing with America. America, if they would have done their version of Revolutionary Girl Utena, the movie, probably would have done it for the same time frame. But then again, they could have taken a page out of Japan and other countries, and they could have expanded it up until the second half. And for the next maybe 35 minutes, have her as a car. You know what I'm saying? I know to some of you this may not make sense, what I'm saying, but what I'm doing is giving my opinions on what I feel would have happened if Japan animation filmmakers and storytellers, animes, if you will, and other countries, if they would have had the opportunity to do their versions of certain shows here that were done here, aired here, done and aired here in the U.S. And that's why I brought up the Sandra Shore thing in Humanoids. That's why I brought up the Revolutionary Girl Utena, chocolate chips, the Sonic SatAM, Supersonic deal, the Transformers, even G.I. Joe when the guy got turned into a whale. If Japan and other countries had the opportunity to do their version of that episode where the guy got turned into a whale, they would have extended it for at least 2 episodes. No doubt. No doubt they would have done that. But, and again, there's other series out there that are like that. Like Aladdin. I remember there was an episode where this corrupted family comes in and they turn Jasmine and the Sultan into jewelry. They could have easily extended that. If Japan had their opportunity or other countries had the opportunity to do that episode, they would have extended it for 2 episodes. There's no doubt. But, and again, it just goes to show you, in my opinion, the difference between American animation and Japan animation in other countries, especially the storytelling. Because if they would have had their opportunity to tell their version of the series of a franchise or a series that was made here in the U.S., there's no doubt they would have extended on it, because those people, whether you like them or not, whether you like the way they do things or not, whether you like their animation style or not, the storytelling or not, they see potential and they always like to expand on it. Another example, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I remember watching the cat creature from Channel 6 in the original one. Again, if Japan or any other country, filmmakers and storytellers and animation writers and all that, had their opportunity to work on that episode, especially Japan, with all respect to the other countries, there's no doubt in my mind that Japan would have expanded on that episode. They would have expanded it for at least maybe another episode or 2. They probably would have kept April under Shredder's control for at least 1 episode, and then if it's a 3-parter, you keep her as a cat creature for 1 more episode, and then like in the 3rd part, finally get her cured. Or if it's 2 parts, again, keep her as a slave for the end, for the first part, and then use the 2nd part to help her find the cure or get her back to normal. The same goes when she was turned into a fish woman. Again, just my opinion. If Japan animated filmmakers and storytellers had their chance, and this goes for other countries, there's no doubt, in my opinion, they would have expanded on that. Again, I know it may not make sense to anybody, but in my opinion, I feel that's what would have happened. And you know what? And you know what's even more crazy? Let's take a look at the more recent incarnation of Ninja Turtles, Back to the Sewers. The episode where April was turned into a demon. You remember that episode? Okay. Here's what I know would have happened. No doubt in my mind, I know this would have happened. This is just my opinion, but I feel it would have happened if Japan anime writers and filmmakers and storytellers got their chance to do their own version of that episode where she turned into a demon. There's no doubt in my mind they would have expanded that for maybe 2 or 3 episodes. Because, come on, think about it. Wouldn't you have liked to have seen April as a demon, in her demon form, just sitting like on some kind of throne in the sky or in a dark area somewhere, just plotting, thinking, what world do I destroy next? Or what country do I destroy first? Just think about it. Just think about it. Just think about that. And don't tell me that didn't have potential right there, because it did. And it would have made the quest for Casey and the Turtles even more epic, because they would have to try to track down where April was just to get the ring off her and cure her. But again, these are just my opinions, which I'm entitled to. And I just feel that if Japan's anime storytellers and filmmakers, along with any other countries out there, had their opportunity to do their versions of certain franchises, from Humanoids to Transformers to Ninja Turtles Back to the Sewer, Rescue Rangers, Sonic Sat AM, G.I. Joe, and the list goes on and on and on and on. If they had their opportunities, there's no doubt in my mind they would have seen potential and they would have expanded on them. They would have made them into multi-part episodes. They would have maybe had situations extend longer than what they were. And that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. I'm entitled to it. Go back to Disney again with Aladdin. There was another episode where the villainous Kasim, I think his name was, he basically took over Agrabah and used his power to turn Jasmine and the Sultan into little blobs. He encased in some kind of glass. Now think about it. Potential right there. Right there, you could have expanded that for 2 episodes. You could have had Kasim send Jasmine to one area of Agrabah of the world and the Sultan to another. And they would have to go find them and restore them themselves. Or how about when Jasmine lost her memory, thanks to Abysmal? No doubt they could have expanded on that. And there's no doubt in my mind, again, going back to what I was saying, because it's my opinions and I'm entitled to them, that Japan anime filmmakers, storytellers, along with other countries, if they had the opportunity, they would have seen potential, they would have done it. And again, I'm not saying America doesn't do that. America has done that at times. They've done great jobs. Series like Gargoyles, I think, is a good example. And there's some others out there. I just can't think of them right now. But what I'm saying, folks, because it's my opinions, I'm entitled to them, and I know this may not make sense to a lot of you, but I feel that if the animation filmmakers and storytellers in Japan, the animation filmmakers and storytellers in all the other countries like Canada, Germany, Australia, China, United Kingdom, France, Brazil, Mexico, if they had their opportunities, in my opinions, they probably would have seen potential, and they probably would have expanded. Just my opinion. So, again, these are my opinions. May not make sense to some of you people out there, but these are my opinions. So, give me your thoughts down below. Comment if you like. And I hope you all have a good Sunday.